Hey YouTube, Alex Conley here, and in today's video I thought I'd just go over something that's kind of been a recurring question, and that question is, what would it take for me to go back to the United States long term? So to give you some backstory, I'm originally from the United States. Basically, I don't have any family there. I have some good friends there, some really good friends there that are wonderful people. Um, but as far as family, I don't have any family there, and I don't fully identify with or understand American culture. I am an American, but there are some things I really struggle with in America, and so recently I've kind of decided to travel indefinitely. And in the short term, I'll let you know what my goals are, and in the long term, I'll let you know what my ideas are. So in the short term, in America, for me to have a quiet place to live, because I don't have family to go stay with, I either have to tolerate a lot of headaches from roommate situations, or I have to pay out the nose. I have to spend several thousand a month just for accommodation, to find accommodation to my liking. And that doesn't include everything else that's pretty pricey in America. And if you haven't lived before in the United States, understand that anywhere that you can get a good job, you can have career stability, which, I need income just like everyone else. These places are very expensive. You're gonna pay a premium to live in the premium job markets like a San Francisco or a New York City or a Seattle. Some people might say, well, America's so cheap, and yeah, in the middle of nowhere where there's no jobs. Now, I know remote work is becoming more of a thing, but I don't believe it's realistic to count on remote work. And the thing that you have to consider if you're going to a remote area is, well, I may be, getting a low cost of living in rural Kansas, but when I, need to get a new job, let's say we have more of an economic downturn, you get laid off, it's going to be pretty hard to get a non-remote job in rural Kansas. Whereas if you are in one of these premier cities, you're going to have an easier time, but that comes with a cost, a startup cost. And I'm comfortable, relatively comfortable with my finances, but I'm not comfortable with the idea of overpaying just to be in America when the support structure is just simply not there to the extent that it needs to be. So I'm faced with a decision, do I want to burn through savings and rack up debt to finish my education, or am I willing to compromise with all the changes due to the pandemic? All of my classes are remote, and I believe that my classes will have a remote option indefinitely. Based on what I understand about the changes in the education system. Well, why don't I just relocate to other cities that offer a much higher quality of life per dollar spent? And so that's kind of what I've tried to explore, and that's what's brought me here to Medellin. So all of that aside, I love it here in Medellin. I'll probably continue to stay here for several months. I'd also like to check out Bogota, Cartagena. Colombia is really impressing me, like seriously impressing me. But all of that being said, clearly I'm incurring some costs being here. Clearly it's not free to live in Colombia. What would be the reasons that I'd need to go back to America? Well, I've primarily got two reasons that I've come up with that would cause me to go back to America long term. And the first and most obvious is running out of money. So if I encounter some kind of extreme financial hardship, if my investments fail really badly, if I have, basically very limited savings, then I would go to the United States. Because in the United States, I could borrow money, I have a good credit score, I could borrow money and get started up again. I wouldn't be, loving it, but it would be survival. And I'm all about survival, more so than most other things, just out of necessity. Just kind of call it the orphan mindset if you want, but I definitely, survival ranks high on my list of priorities. And so that would be a thing. If I ran out of savings, if somebody somehow managed to steal all of my investments, which is really difficult to do, but anyway, these types of situations, if all I had left was enough money to buy a plane ticket back, then certainly the United States is going to be a much better place to be at in that situation. because I speak English, obviously English is the predominant language in the United States. I have some work experience in the States, et cetera, et cetera. That's a big reason I would go back, is no money and don't want to have no money in countries and places with no social safety net for foreigners. Many of these countries don't even have much of a safety net for their own people, just because that's the economics of the situation. But even more so as for me as a visitor, it would be totally ridiculous for me to attempt to get some kind of assistance when it's really a luxury for me to be able to travel to other countries. And I'm really grateful that these folks have welcomed me, and I don't want to misuse that. So that's the first reason. First reason would be economics, financial. What would the second reason be? Well, the second reason would be if I get a really, really big job offer. If I were offered a really big salary in the software engineering field after I complete my degree, I would do that. I would probably take that opportunity up, and I would work that for several years, save as much money as possible, and beef up that resume. And then I would turn around and attempt to parlay that into basically a more of a remote position. And kind of touching on that, Shopify, for example, if any of you folks are familiar with Shopify has recently announced they're going to let their entire engineering team work from anywhere in the world. So whether you want to work in Montreal, Canada, where Shopify is based, or you want to live in New York, or you want to live in Bangkok, or wherever you want to live, from my understanding, Shopify is allowing for that. So I would parlay that experience and the savings associated with working that job for several years into going back abroad. And why would I do this? Well, I'm interested to see the world. I think that it's really fascinating to be able to go to other countries, experience other cultures, meet different kinds of people, learn from them, get their sort of collective experience, and it really has really improved my life a lot to spend a lot of time around foreign people, around immigrants, around people from other countries. And you definitely have that in the United States, but at times the United States feels like such a meat grinder with the high cost of living that everything is based around the context of work, and I don't know, it just gets to be at times stressful. I don't think the United States is a bad country to live in. I think it's a really good place for a whole lot of people, but in my unique circumstance, not having that support structure and struggling to find a quality place to live, and these types of things are a good reason in my mind to explore other places, and I found it to be really rewarding. So I recognize it's a bit of a ramble, but the two reasons that I've kind of come up with, the prominent reasons would be: one, running out of money, or two, getting a really good job offer that would really solidify my financial future, or at least contribute to that idea. So kind of a question I'm going to touch on that some of you might be asking, well, why I'm not going to acknowledge it. Healthcare. What about healthcare? Well, I don't want healthcare in the United States right now. Healthcare in the United States is extremely expensive. As much as I'd want it, realistically speaking, you're going to pay a really big premium for healthcare in the United States. It's not a cheap place to get healthcare, and most people's healthcare is attached to their job. So if they don't have a job, if they're not working for an employer, then they're going to be struggling with health problems. And I do understand that they have the single payer style system that they're trying to roll out and develop and grow with the new president, but it's just a mess. And abroad, in many cases, I can afford to self-insure. I can afford to pay up front the costs of any care that I might incur. Some people might ask, what if you get injured? I'm not saying I won't get injured. I'm not saying it's impossible for me to get injured, but I have no dependents. If something happens to me, there's no one really relying on me to keep a roof over their head. There's nobody really relying on me to eat. I wouldn't say I'm not important, but I'm not planning for people other than myself, really. So aside from that, in terms of costs, I'm a late 20s guy. I don't have major health problems that I'm familiar with. I don't engage in very many dangerous activities. I'm not a big nightlife guy anymore. I'm not a big guy. I'm not big into going into the bars. I'm not big on going into the nightclubs, the dance clubs, the wild concerts. Um, I've mellowed out quite a bit in the last 5 to 10 years, and so I find that my days are much more predictable regardless of the country I'm in. I tend to already know the kinds of neighborhoods I like to be in. I kind of already know the types of foods I like. I really enjoy a strong internet connection, being able to browse the web, work on my programming, learn about different things. Um, these aren't particularly like dangerous or risky activities. Browsing the web, programming, going for walks, having nice dinners, some dating, some exercise. This is somewhat why I feel comfortable self-insuring. Now, this is not going to necessarily be the case forever. As I get older, maybe I hit 35, 40, I start to look at an insurance plan after I find the country that's going to be my home base. Like, I enjoy traveling, but my ultimate goal with all of this is to have a few places that I really, really like and to go between those places, and I'll insure in those places. I'll purchase, relevant insurance plans and plan accordingly, because that's just that extra layer of security. But healthcare is, it's good in the United States, but the United States is not the only place with good healthcare. And I said it before, and I'll say it again. I said it in a post. I can't remember where I posted it, but the majority of doctors, I think I posted on an economic invincibility video. A really good channel. You should check out Economic Invincibility. Shout out to Martin Goldberg and all the other Goldbergers listening. So I had lost my train of thought there. So most medical doctors, most medical professionals, they don't want to hurt anybody. Like, it's very, very rare in my mind that you have a medical professional that actively wants to hurt somebody, especially when you're paying a premium in that country. So when I seek medical care, I don't just pick a random, hospital that I drive by and, they're going to treat me. No, I do my research. I go on Google reviews. I look to see, have they treated other foreigners? How did other expats and travelers feel about their treatment? Was it quality? What's their reviews like? If they've got a 3-star average, I don't want to be treated by a 3-star doctor. I want the 5-star. I want to have confidence this guy or gal. And I've been treated by both. I've had female and male medical professionals in other countries. I want to have confidence and faith in them that they're going to do a good job, and that I'm getting what I pay for. So these are some things to think about, that private care is accessible elsewhere. Quality private care is accessible. And many medical professionals in other countries, they've trained or done some training in English. If I'm not mistaken, it's like the majority of medical research is done in English. So when you talk about doctors in other countries, yes, their first language is probably not going to be English. If you grew up in Thailand, your first language is probably not English. But they have exposure to English. Many of these top quality providers, they're treating expats, they're treating English speakers. They may enjoy traveling to predominantly English-speaking countries, New Zealand, Australia, Canada. So the thing I'd say, kind of wrapping this video up, don't want to turn it to too much more of a ramble. The United States is becoming much more like the rest of the world, and vice versa. Many other parts of the world are becoming more like the United States. And, I couldn't imagine having the kind of experience I'm having today in Medellin 20, 30 years ago. Colombia was, from my understanding, almost a failed state. And coming here today, it doesn't feel that way at all. It's a gorgeous city. The people are extremely friendly. I don't know where this bad service line is coming from. Occasionally you deal with some bad service here, but it's like, well, we're in a big city that's very expensive and people have to work really hard to make a living here. So if somebody's not in a picture perfect mood all the time, I can't really blame them for that. And I'm grateful that you know, these people are still committed to making this a really nice place to spend time. And anyway, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll talk to you next time.